Okay, folks, let's take a moment and listen to an uncontrolled, crazy person that has over $7 million in debt, well, margined debt, and it's 50% of his entire portfolio, and I'm talking about Meet Kevin, and these are his words, not mine, so don't batter me too hard in that description below, but I think there's a lot to learn from this. If you guys haven't heard of the show called Millennial Money, it is a new Tuesday live stream with some of the biggest YouTubers in the financial niche, and primarily stock market, real estate, and investing in general. And Meet Kevin opened up on here in a way that I've never heard from him before, and I think it is a super interesting conversation. So I broke this whole thing down. We're going to pause it along the way, take some listens, add some comments. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, hit that like button. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But let's get right into this.
But the problem with me is I'm this uncontrolled, insane person who's like this kid who's always in the candy shop, always stuffing their face with candy. But then it's almost like somebody emptied my stomach, like the market crashed, and it was just like, now I'm hungry in a candy shop. And it's just so unhealthy and bad because it's just like, margin, no problem. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Sure, I'll buy that. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Like,
So did you increase your margin position?
Oh my God, I'm over 50%. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's bad. Yeah.
Over 50% margin?
Margin, yeah. Well,
first and foremost, guys, Meet Kevin is a fairly wealthy individual. We have to keep in mind that he owns a ton of real estate, like millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate. So for him, his stock portfolio can be a little bit more of a place to speculate, a place to add on some risk. But when you're talking about probably about $14 or $15 million in a portfolio, and half of that is pure margin, you have to keep in mind, guys, if the markets drop 50%, he's technically broke. Like that account is basically worthless at that point, because again, if you have, again, let's say 14 million, keep it even, right? And you lose 50%, so you lose 7 million, which is what you have in margin. That means you still owe that $7 million, and that is all you have retaining in that portfolio. So this insanity comes with a whole new load of risk and definitely sits well beyond my comfort zone, but I'll discuss more about my personal comfort using margin and like credit in general to invest. But let's keep listening.
Part of it is because, I was at 20% right before. I sold a bunch of stocks right before this madness happened. Luckily, I mean, just fluke. And just because I wanted to be at 20% margin. But then there was like this private, like you could buy the stocks off market. So there was this opportunity. I came up to buy a stock off market, and I just had I had $1.7 million of extra money in margin, like not my money, in margin. And I'm like, okay, I'll just put that into that private deal. And the problem with things falling off a cliff, your stock value goes down, your margin value goes up. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I'm at like 37%. I'll just buy a bunch. And I'm pretty sure I bought my way up to like 50%. It's pretty bad.
Whoa.
And if you got the money to do it, man.
Yeah. If you got the money, don't do it, man. This is not advice for the general public. Heck, I imagine if you got like Kevin O'Leary in here, he would be reaming this guy 9 ways to hell, because you guys can imagine if you could just make 10% on $7 million, you'd be primarily making what, like $700,000 a year, like an absurd amount of money, right? So Meet Kevin seems to be this really jittery fired guy, but it reminds me of one of these people that can go from multi-millionaire to broke in a very short period of time and then back to being rich again, because like his looking at the daily volatility in his portfolio probably takes a lot to stomach. But I'm surprised Jeremy isn't chiming in here. You know, Jeremy from Financial Education was just sitting here, and if you know anything about his backstory, he got slapped silly playing around with margin, and he refuses to use it. And most people I know that have the kind of wealth that somebody like Meet Kevin does have, I've never seen them use margin quite in this way, which is why it's so entertaining to listen to. So let's continue on.
It's scary though, because it's like, you know, I've got options in Robinhood, but you don't get any margin collateral on options, and margins like evaporate fast in a crash, right? So anybody who's like heavy on margins in a crash, they get boned. Like,
you have
real
a plan?
bad.
Do you have a plan if that happens? What's your plan of attack if that happens?
Yeah, I kind of. So, it always comes down to how extreme it gets. I mean, there's always a risk with this stuff, but I've got about 10% in margin. I'm sorry, 10% in options. There's nothing I could really do with the options because the options go so dirt cheap. Like the last thing I would want to sell would be options in a crash because you'd get nothing for them. You just get ripped off. So I have about 1.5 in cash that I could use to buffer margin,
Okay.
which I've got like 7.5 of margin. It's pretty bad.
That's like 10% Tesla going down. That you would probably lose around that, right?
If
1.5.
what?
If Tesla
Oh,
dropped
1.5%.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, a 10% move in Tesla would probably do that. Yeah.
That 1.5 is a lot, but I don't know if that's enough, is it?
No, it really it isn't. So look, the last deep numbers that I did was it was before the Friday crash. I think it was like on the Thursday crash. I did my numbers. I'm like, okay, so I'm at like 43% margin, or maybe it was like 46% or 47%, something like that. Either way, if I took all the cash I had, it would only drop me 6% in margin. So it'd bring me down another 6%. Then I would have to pull my credit lines, which would drop me another 2 or 3%. So I'd have another buffer there. If I sold out my Bitcoin, I'd be able, unless that crashed, I'd be able to get down maybe another 3%. So I've really only got like a 12 or 13% buffer. And when you're sitting at 47 percentage points, it's painful. Yeah.
Stupid and crazy is what this is here, folks. And again, his words, not mine. Don't beat me up too bad here. But his fallout plan, if shit hits the fan royally, his whole backup buffer plan is $1 million in cash. The fact that his Bitcoin should hopefully be worth more later than it is today, and his line of credit, those are not buffer plans that would make me sleep easy at night. Hell, I just paid off my line of credit because I was so terrified of things getting real bad and me not having any buffer room. My buffer room, I had other line of credit. I could do what Meet Kevin does here, but I don't want to ever leverage more than 5 or 10% of my personal portfolio because I couldn't handle it dropping 50% and me having to pull that out of my pocket. And even if that's $5,000 or $10,000, it doesn't make me sleep easy at night, guys. I like my portfolio to be passive, and I'll talk about more of that in a second after we listen to the rest of this.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. I feel like if the market drops, the crypto market would equally drop, if not more. I don't think people are going to flock to crypto. They're not going to be like, "Oh, safe haven, Bitcoin."
Well, yeah. So when Bitcoin was going down 20%, which it did just in the last couple of weeks, it went from like 57 to like 43 or something at one point. I'm like, here we go. This is how your boy Kevin gets reamed. And then the next thing that happens is interest rates go up and all my property values get slashed. And I'm just ultra effed.
So what's crazy to me here is it's like he's joking about it, but he's completely mapped out the reality that could potentially happen in the near term. I mean, we could see a rapid rise in inflation leading the Fed to say, hey, interest rates go up, real estate values come down, Bitcoin could get crushed. We could still see a further flatlining or sell-off in speculations. It's Tesla, these stocks that he owns. He literally reminds me of those people that make a crap ton of money and go broke all in the same time period. But I also, in this interview, he talks about too how he wants to get to a level in his life where he can operate his business just anywhere in the world off his computer and continue to do the videos and the stock stuff, which is really entertaining to me because, I mean, my primary goal in life, guys, is get to a place of pure passive freedom where I can operate my business completely unlocalized from anywhere in the world, which is somewhere I'm getting very close to achieving right now, thanks to a lot of you. So I really appreciate you guys out there. But I want to be in a place, guys, where I log into my account and there's just capital in there I can transfer and do as I please. I don't want to have to sit here and worry about moments like this where you're looking at, highly speculative stocks being down 30%. It's not a game for me. It's most likely not a game for you. And it's not a game I recommend for 99% of people out there. Because again, guys, you need that kind of, I wonder what Meet Kevin's actual future goals are, because I know, some of these guys aspire to be billionaires and things like that, which is really cool. And the only way they can kind of get there is by margining capital because they don't have enough. And they're willing to lose that weighted percentage. And Meet Kevin's probably willing to watch his stock portfolio go to zero because, again, he's backed by real estate. But again, it's just so much money and it's hard to imagine from the perspective of most people. And again, guys, 10% on 7 mil, that's a stupid amount of money to invest every year, plus his YouTube income, plus his real estate income. I mean, like, how far do you have to push the boundaries before it kind of comes back and slaps you in the face? It's going to be really interesting to watch how Meet Kevin's career unfolds. So I'm going to stick around and continue watching it. And I pass the question off to you. What do you guys think about margin? What do you think about all of this in general in that comment section below? But stay cool, stay awesome. And as always, I look forward to catching you tomorrow.
I mean, I'm all in for support of no car loan, no credit card debt. That's fine for vast majority of people. I think that's really good financial advice. Paying off the house. I mean, I know, Andre, if you weren't in the situation, you'd have a mortgage on it. We'd all have mortgages on these things. Are we nuts? Like, why are we so okay with debt? Why are we so desensitized?
I don't know. Part of me fantasizes all the time of paying off the mortgages and just moving the money from the savings account and just knocking them all out. And then just being, you know what? It's simple. And I part of me kind of just, there is a peace of mind that you get by not having debt.